And this is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner. Here with me today, Sandra Smith, Jedediah Bila, Kirsten Powers, and today's hashtag, one lucky guy, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. And
Thanks for having me.
I have some notes absolutely about you.
Yeah.
He served in Operation Desert Storm, Operation Iraq Freedom, and in Afghanistan. He was awarded a Bronze Star, and he also served in Congress. And today, he is outnumbered.
Yes, I am.
Good to have you, Colonel.
But you know what? This is normal for me with a wife and 2 daughters. So this is all right. They just told me to act like normal, like I'm in the house, and just sit over in the corner. So you guys put me in my corner.
No, no.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I can talk for food.
Exactly. You got it right.
Yeah, normally I have my motorcycle so I can escape. But,
you should have parked that out back. You should have made a quick exit if you needed to. I think you're going to do great.
He may have.
Well, thanks.
All right.
Good to be here.
Get rolling.
Looking forward to it.
The sparks are flying, and they were from the get-go on Capitol Hill, where lawmakers grilled an unapologetic IRS chief, John Koskinen, about the agency's targeting scandal. The hearing is in a break right now for some votes on other issues, but we're expected it's going to continue very quickly right after that. Republicans are furious that thousands of emails belonging to ex-IRS official Lois Lerner are missing and could be gone forever after it was revealed that they were lost when her computer crashed in 2011. One of the most heated moments came when Congressman Paul Ryan took his turn.
You don't have the emails. Hard drives crashed. You learned about this months ago. You just told us, and we had to ask you on Monday. This is not being forthcoming. This is being misleading again. This is a pattern of abuse, a pattern of behavior that is not giving us any confidence that this agency is being impartial. I don't believe you. This is incredible.
I have a long career. That's the first time anybody has said that you do not believe me. I
don't believe you.
That's fine. We can have a disagreement. I'm willing to stand on our record. I'm willing to remind you that it was not buried in 27 pages. Most of that 27 pages is exhibits. When asked about the custodians, we advised you what
being
we knew,
forthcoming,
which we knew for one day.
Being forthcoming is to say,
I'm sorry,
you know what, investigators, Congress who's investigating this about
Will you
this?
let him answer the question?
I didn't ask him a question.
Yes, you
Being
did.
forthcoming.
The gentleman
I control the time.
from Wisconsin
I control the
has
time. Here's what being forthcoming is.
Regular order.
If we are investigating criminal wrongdoing, targeting of people based on their political beliefs, and the emails in question are lost because of a hard drive crash that is apparently unrecoverable, which a lot of IT professionals would question, and you don't tell us about it until we ask you about it, that is not being forthcoming.
And that's true.
Wow. And earlier today, people were gasping in that room when Koskinen, once and for all, explained the fate of that critical computer hard drive.
Your letter describes the Lois Lerner emails as being unrecoverable.
Correct.
But fails to mention where the damaged hard drive is today. Do you know where the actual hard drive is that crashed in 2011?
I'm advised the actual hard drive, after it was determined that it was dysfunctional and that with experts no emails could be retrieved, was recycled and destroyed in the normal process.
So was it physically destroyed?
That's my understanding.
So was it melted down? Do you know?
I have no idea what the recycler does with it. This was 3 years ago.
Wow. So you're going on Capitol Hill, but you didn't find out what they did with the hard drive.
Wow.
Let's go straight to Colonel West. Your thoughts?
You know, it is very hard for you to try to excuse this away because, you know, the IRS tells us as American citizens we have to keep records up to some 7 years, and they're also mandated to keep hard copies of emails up to 2 years. So for him to come and say this is all gone, that's unacceptable. And furthermore, we got an agency that is doing pretty good with collecting metadata called the NSA. Why don't we just turn over to them and say this does not play out well before the American people, because if there's one agency that galvanizes the American people, it's the Internal Revenue
Colonel,
Service.
tell me your thoughts about the Republicans are really fighting hard on this issue. This isn't a Republican or a Democrat issue.
Yeah.
This is an American
issue. It's an American issue. And as you and I talked off screen, we talked about a liberty issue. I mean, because, you know, you've got 16,000 IRS agents they're supposed to come in, and they're going to be the ones in charge of our health care. As a matter of fact, the next IRS return, you're going to have to check that little box, whether or not you have, you know, a health insurance coverage. So these people have so much intrusion into our lives, and And now we're seeing this play out where they feel kind of in an arrogant way they are not responsible and responsive back to us. And I think that Republicans are, you know, kind of getting tired of the little Heisman trick that's been played on them.
Let's flip the switch. Let's see this from the Democrats' perspective on the Hill. We've got a little bit now from House Minority Speaker Nancy Pelosi on this. Let's watch.
They need to upgrade their technology, get it right, so that there's no suspicion about what agenda anyone may have on that.
All right, so Jedediah, she's saying the problem for the IRS is that their computer technology is behind the times, and that was really the problem.
Just blame the technology like they were willing to blame some low-level employees. It sounds absolutely ridiculous. You know what a lot of Americans would love? They would love for a team of IT experts to go in there and question that guy and ask some questions, because there is no way that there is not some trace of this. Those emails landed in someone else's box. They are somewhere. If they want to find these emails, they will find these emails. And as a side note, just as a conservative, I have to say, I love that side of Paul Ryan. I don't know where that side of Paul Ryan was in the last election, but if you can bring that out again, we might be willing to give you another shot.
Kirsten, House Speaker John Boehner described the situation in the same terms, saying, quote, "The White House has not lifted a finger to help us get to the bottom of this." Why isn't the White House helping?
I don't know, but I also don't know why Nancy Pelosi said what she said. First of all, there's no upside for Democrats to be defending this at all, and to be suggesting that it's just a technology problem. Okay, well, why then? Why didn't they have better technology? Why were they not backing things up as they are required by the law to do? They're the IRS. You know, if it's kind of remarkable that this person can sit there and not even really, he's not even apologetic. You know, not even saying, well, like, I'm sorry, it just seems like common sense to me that if you have a hard drive at the IRS, you preserve that.
Well, and we're not just talking about one hard drive. I think that we're losing track of the fact that we're talking about 6 hard drives, of 6 individuals that worked at the IRS that are involved in this scandal. And the part we left out in the soundbite of Nancy Pelosi is that she did indeed, Harris, say that she believes this, okay? She went on to say, well, you know, maybe we should just spend some more money and fix the system. Well, guess what? That should have been done a long time ago. And I felt like it was so demeaning for him to not, the IRS commissioner, for him to not have an answer where that hard drive is. Is it in a dumpster somewhere? Where is it melted down? Where is that hard drive? Somebody knows.
And later in the hearing, he was asked, does Lois Lerner have a BlackBerry or an iPhone? And Koskinen said, I don't know, but I'll find out, and I'd be happy to let you know.
Every government employee has a BlackBerry or some type of communicative means. But Kirsten brings up a great point. If the Democrats are seen as aligning themselves with the IRS in this situation, this can be a huge political issue for them going into the midterm.
Well, speaking of a huge political issue, Colonel West, President Obama making some surprise remarks during a news conference on the growing crisis in Iraq. Listen to how he answered this question.
Do you wish you had left a residual force in Iraq? Any regrets about that decision in 2011?
Well, keep in mind, that wasn't a decision made by me. That was a decision made by the Iraqi government.
That's very different from what he said in 2012 during his re-election campaign for the White House. Watch this exchange with his then opponent, former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney.
With regards to Iraq, you and I agreed, I believe, that there should have been a status of forces agreement. Did you? True. Oh, you didn't? You didn't want a status of forces agreement?
No, what I would not have done is left 10,000 troops in Iraq that would tie us down. That certainly would not help us in the Middle East.
So what's the real story here, Colonel West?
Look, we left how many troops in Germany, and they're still there. We left how many troops in Korea? They're still there. We left how many troops in Japan? They're still there. Bill Clinton said we would only be in the Balkans for a year. We're still there. You know, this is about strategic vision, and I think what the president got caught up in is a campaign promise as opposed to good, sound foreign policy and strategic vision. The military has a very simple maxim. You never give up terrain that you have taken. And now what we are having to contend with, we created a vacuum. And Prime Minister Netanyahu talked to us in August of 2011 and said, if you withdraw all of your troops out of Iraq and you don't leave any type of footprint, you will create a vacuum. And this is where we are. We're going to have to deal with this ISIS enemy either today or later. I would rather deal with ISIS now in their early infantile stages than have to deal with them later when they have created some type of Islamic caliphate, which is what the Taliban and al-Qaeda did in Afghanistan.
Kirsten, I'm curious your take on this flip-flopping from the president.
Well, I think look, he did clearly use it as a campaign issue, but it is also true that Maliki wasn't going to let him leave any troops there. So I guess I'd say to you, even if you feel that way, that we should have had troops there, there was no way to get a status forces agreement, and you can't leave your troops there without
that. But see,
that.
I would disagree in that if you show resolve and strength in that part of the world, they will bend to your will. And when you think about the treasure and the resources that our American men and women, and I was there in 2003, had sacrificed there, you just don't go back to Maliki and say, okay, then we won't do anything. It's interesting that we're looking at the verge of the exact same thing.
So you would have sent troops there without having protections for immunity?
Oh, I would have gotten protections.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's fair. I mean, Maliki did not want us there. There's no question. Right?
Maliki would not be in his position of power if it weren't for us.
Well, that's true. But I mean, he also didn't want the U.S. there. I mean, he's not a good partner.
I think.
Right?
I agree. He's not a good partner, but I think we could have done a little bit better influence in that situation.
I think the key is that Americans didn't want us there. So even though you can look at Barack Obama and say, well, he's flip-flopping, you know, he said one thing, now he's saying another. I think the bottom line is that 80% of Iraqis didn't want us there, and Americans didn't want us there. So on that issue, they were standing with the president. And I think most Americans still will be standing with the president if he takes a back seat on this one. I think many Americans actually think he should have taken even more of a back seat and not even sent those advisors over. So I think on this issue, he has a lot of public support.
Last word, Colonel.
This is the problem. You know, I hear this thing about war fatigue. How many people in the United States of America truly have war fatigue? How many people in the United States of America went over there and served in Iraq or Afghanistan? I think you're talking about less than 1%.
Yeah.
A soldier wants to, a sailor, airman, Marine, Coast Guard, they want to see a mission completed. The only way you end wars, you either win it or you lose it.
Right.
You don't pack up and you go away and say, I quit, because the enemy has a vote.
Yeah.
All right, well, a popular clothing company for teens is at it again, dealing out controversy with a line of promotional pens made to look like hypodermic needles. And you won't believe what they say on them. Plus, some coaches at the World Cup are laying down the law for their players. Wait until you hear some of the things that players are banned from doing in the bedroom.
Do they wear those?